The Mongolian steppe appears endless, cold, and empty, but for centuries it shaped men through hunger, violence, and survival. And from this harsh land, a boy was born who would alter the course of human history. His name was Temujin, and his beginning was marked not by destiny, but by abandonment. His father, a minor tribal leader, was poisoned by rivals, and according to the merciless laws of the steppe, his family was immediately cast aside, stripped of protection, alliances, and honor. Overnight, they became invisible, surviving on root scraps and stolen moments of safety. Winter carved strength into their bodies, and fear sharpened Temujin's mind, because in a world where weakness meant death, he learned early that mercy was a luxury. Few could afford. The Mongol tribes were bound by bloodlines, tradition, and revenge cycles, and Temujin belonged to none of them. He was captured as a teenager, enslaved, and paraded as a warning to others. Yet even in chains he observed how authority truly worked, not through titles but through fear, loyalty, and control. He escaped captivity through patience and calculated timing, and from that moment survival was no longer enough. Ambition began to grow when Temujin returned. He saw a fractured land, locked in endless conflict, where tribes destroyed each other over pride and old wounds, and he realized that this chaos was not strength, it was decay. The traditional system rewarded noble birth rather than ability, and leaders protected only their own clans. Temujin rejected this entirely. He offered something revolutionary: loyalty over lineage, protection over tradition, and opportunity over blood. Warriors followed him because he fed them, defended their families, and punished betrayal equally. Regardless of status, this new order spread quietly, at first camp by camp, oath by oath, until Temujin's following became an army, not bound by tribe, but by discipline. When he was proclaimed Genghis Khan, meaning universal ruler, it was not ceremony, it was a declaration of intent. His forces trained relentlessly, mastering horseback archery, communication, and rapid movement. Every warrior functioned as part of a single organism, capable of adapting instantly. The Mongols did not rely on numbers, but on speed, intelligence, and psychological dominance. They struck without warning, vanished into the horizon, and returned when enemies were exhausted. Cities that resisted were annihilated entirely, not out of cruelty, but strategy, because terror traveled faster than any messenger. Surrender meant survival, resistance meant extinction, and this reputation collapsed. Defenses before battles even began. Spies infiltrated courts, supply lines were severed, and misinformation spread. Confusion. Traditional armies failed against an enemy that refused predictable warfare. From northern China across Central Asia, entire civilizations that had stood for centuries fell within months. Yet behind the devastation, something unexpected emerged. The Mongols reopened trade routes, standardized laws, and enforced religious tolerance, not out of compassion, but efficiency. Belief did not matter. Obedience did. Merchants, scholars, and travelers crossed lands once considered unreachable, and for a brief moment, history accelerated, moving at the speed of galloping horses, unified under one unstoppable will. Breath. At its greatest extent, the Mongol Empire stretched further than any land empire before it, connecting continents, cultures, and economies. Yet no empire built by a single vision can escape the limits of time. Genghis Khan died during a distant campaign, his death concealed with absolute secrecy, his burial hidden and erased, as if the steppe itself guarded his memory. The man vanished, but the system he created endured. His sons and generals expanded the empire into Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and deep into Asia. Cities fell, kingdoms collapsed, and borders dissolved, yet without a singular authority. Fractures began to appear, ambition, rivalry, and distance weakened unity. The empire divided into powerful khanates, each ruling vast territories, but increasingly independent. Conquest continued, but its purpose shifted from survival to dominance, and the fear that once paralyzed resistance slowly diminished. Enemies adapted alliances, strengthened, and Mongol tactics met organized resistance. Still, the consequences of Mongol rule reshaped the world. Permanently, trade intensified, technologies spread, and ideas traveled faster than ever before. The Pax Mongolica enforced stability through force, allowing unprecedented exchange across continents. Yet the same structure that enabled this prosperity carried the seeds of decline. Maintaining control over such distances required constant pressure, absolute loyalty, and unbroken leadership. Internal conflicts eroded cohesion, administrative challenges replaced battlefield victories, and the empire fractured into history. But the legacy of Genghis Khan extends far beyond conquest, numbers, or destruction. He transformed warfare by proving mobility, intelligence, and psychological dominance could overcome fortified power. He redefined leadership by showing that authority could be earned rather than inherited, and adaptability could surpass tradition. His rise from abandonment to empire reveals how extreme environments produce extreme leaders, and how order can emerge from chaos. The step that once sought to erase him instead forged him into a force that reshaped civilizations. And even centuries later, the echoes of Mongol hooves remain embedded in borders, trade routes, and cultural memory. The modern world was accelerated by the shockwave of Mongol expansion, and while many empires rose afterward, none could ignore the lessons left behind. Because Genghis Khan did not simply conquer land, he exposed how fragile civilization truly is, and how quickly history can collapse and reform. And this is why his story endures, not as legend, but as warning and reminder that power fades, unity fractures, and the most disruptive forces often rise from the harshest places.